Well, folks, it's official. Joe Biden just dropped a bombshell bigger than Hunter's laptop on a slow news day. The big guy is bowing out of the 2024 presidential race. Even free ice cream couldn't convince him to stick around. On July 21st, 2024, President Biden announced he wouldn't seek re-election. This sent shockwaves through the nation. How will we survive without Biden's soothing whispers? Fear not, my fellow Americans. It's just the end of Joe Biden's presidency. This decision has everyone talking. There's a lot to unpack here. So buckle up and get ready for a wild ride. Let's address the elephant in the room, or should I say the senior citizen in the Oval Office. Biden's age has been a hot topic of conversation since he was sworn in using a Bible thicker than the Mueller report. At 81 years young, Biden is already the oldest president in American history, and if he were to run and win in 2024, he'd be pushing 86 by the time he finished his second term. That's older than your grandma's fruitcake and twice as likely to crumble under pressure. Now I'm all for senior citizens staying active and engaged. Heck, my grandpa still goes for a jog every morning, though, to be fair, it's usually just to chase after his rascal of a pet squirrel. But being the leader of the free world is a demanding job, and it requires a certain level of, shall we say, youthful vigor. And let's be honest, folks, sometimes Biden seems a little, let's just say he reminds me of my Uncle Earl trying to program his VCR. He means well, but the technology has kind of passed him by, so maybe, just maybe, it's time for a new generation to take the reins. Someone who doesn't need a nap after reading through a briefing on the latest TikTok trends. Biden's decision to step aside isn't just about his age, though. He's also deeply concerned about the future of the Democratic Party, a party that's about as unified as a pack of cats trying to share a laser pointer. He's worried that a bruising primary battle could leave the Democrats weaker than a screen door on a submarine, making it easier for the Republicans to sail to victory in 2024. Now, I'm not saying that the Democrats are a dysfunctional family, but let's just say that their Thanksgiving dinners probably involve more shouting matches than a WWE Royal Rumble. You've got your progressive wing, your moderate wing, and that one weird uncle who shows up wearing a Bernie Sanders t-shirt and refuses to eat anything but kale smoothies. Biden, bless his heart, wants to avoid all that drama. He's like the weary peacemaker in the family, the one who just wants everyone to get along, even if it means pretending to like Aunt Mildred's fruitcake. He believes that by stepping aside, he's giving the Democrats the best chance to unite behind a new leader and avoid a repeat of the 2016 election, which, let's face it, was about as much fun as a root canal without anesthesia. Now, I know what you're thinking. Stephen, you're making the Democrats sound like a bunch of toddlers fighting over the last juice box. And you know what? You're not entirely wrong. The Democratic Party is a big tent filled with folks from all walks of life, with different ideas about how to move the country forward. You've got your progressives who are always pushing for big, bold changes. Then you've got your moderates who are a little more cautious. And let's not forget about the independents who lean Democrat. It's a diverse group, to say the least, and sometimes it feels like they agree on as much as a room full of cats. But here's the thing, folks, despite their differences, the Democrats need to find a way to come together. Because if they don't, they'll end up handing the election to the Republicans. The Kamala conundrum. From sidekick to center stage? With Biden out, the Democrats need a new champion. All eyes are on Kamala Harris. She could become America's first female president. But it's not easy. She's got a tough road ahead. She's a woman in a male-dominated field, and some say she's too cautious, too eager to please. Others say she lacks charisma and vision. But Harris is a fighter. She's smart, experienced, and has a backbone of steel. She's already made history. She's kind of a big deal. The ghost of primaries past Democrats, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Now, before we all start measuring the drapes in the Oval Office for Harris's arrival, let's not forget that other Democrats might throw their hats into the ring. And I'm not just talking about Bernie Sanders, who at this point is like the political equivalent of that band from the 80s that keeps touring even though everyone's pretty sure they're just doing it for the money. There's Pete Buttigieg, the former mayor of South Bend, Indiana, who's about as exciting as watching paint dry. but who also managed to win the Iowa caucuses, which is more than I can say for myself. There's Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, who's basically the Democratic version of a Kennedy handsome charismatic, and probably already planning his presidential library. And let's not forget about Elizabeth Warren, the senator from Massachusetts, who's got more plans than a contractor at a Home Depot convention, and who's been waiting for her shot at the presidency since Hillary Clinton lost to a reality TV star. The point is, folks, the Democratic primary is going to be a crowded and unpredictable race. And while Harris might have the inside track, she's going to have to fight tooth and nail for every vote. Dear Democrats, please don't make me vote for a Republican. Now, I know some of you watching at home are thinking, Stephen, why should I care who the Democrats nominate? They're all the same. Well, to that I say, have you seen the other guys? The Republicans are like a buffet of bad choices, where the only options are stale breadsticks and lukewarm clam chowder. You've got your Trump loyalists, who are still clinging to the big lie like a life raft in a sea of delusion. You've got your moderate Republicans, who are about as common as a unicorn riding a Segway. And then you've got your far-right extremists, who are just one bad hair day away from declaring war on Canada. So yeah, the Democrats might not be perfect. They might argue amongst themselves, they might make mistakes, and they might occasionally say things that make you want to bang your head against a wall, but at least they're not actively trying to dismantle democracy and turn America into a dystopian nightmare where the wealthy elite rule over the rest of us with an iron fist. Okay, folks. Before we dive into the 2024 election, let's appreciate Joe Biden, the guy holding down the fort. He's been a less chaotic president than his predecessor. Biden's presidency hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows. From a global pandemic to inflation, he's been a steady hand. So what has Biden accomplished? He passed a massive infrastructure bill, oversaw a decline in unemployment, and a booming stock market. And his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic was better than the previous administration's. Remember Infrastructure Week? It was like the political equivalent of the winds of winter, constantly promised, never delivered. Well, folks, under Biden's watch, Infrastructure Week finally arrived, and it wasn't just a week, it was a whole dang bill. That's right, Biden managed to do what Trump only dreamed of. He got a bipartisan infrastructure bill passed, proving that even in this day and age of political polarization, it's still possible for Democrats and Republicans to agree on something other than their mutual dislike of Ted Cruz. This bill, which, let's be honest, is probably thicker than a phone book from the pre-internet era, includes funding for roads, bridges, airports, broadband internet, and even those electric vehicle charging stations that Elon Musk keeps tweeting about. Now, I know what you're thinking. Stephen, that all sounds great, but when will I actually see the benefits of this infrastructure bill? Well, to that I say, patience, my friend. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither is a new bridge over the Ohio River. But trust me, when you're cruising down the highway in your self-driving car, powered by renewable energy, and you don't hit a single pothole, you'll have Joe Biden to thank. When Biden took office, America was still in the throes of the COVID-19 pandemic, a time of masks, social distancing, and trying to remember what it felt like to hug another human being without fearing for your life. It was a dark time, folks, kind of like that one family reunion where your uncle got drunk and started singing karaoke. But under Biden's leadership, things started to change. He ramped up vaccine production and distribution, making it easier for Americans to get vaccinated and boosted. He also listened to the scientists and encouraged people to wear masks and practice social distancing, even though those measures were about as popular as a skunk at a garden party. And slowly but surely, America began to turn the corner on the pandemic. Cases went down, hospitalizations decreased, and people started to venture out of their homes, eager to reconnect with the world and maybe even attend a concert or two. Now, I'm not saying that the pandemic is over. We're still dealing with new variants. And there are still folks out there who are hesitant to get vaccinated, which is like refusing to wear a life jacket on a sinking ship. But there's no doubt that Biden's leadership has made a difference, and for that we should all be grateful. Section 4. The world. According to Biden, diplomacy, dodges, and maybe a little daydreaming, foreign policy might not be the sexiest topic in the world. It's kind of like watching paint dry, except the paint is beige, and it's being applied by a bunch of diplomats in suits, arguing over the finer points of international treaties. But it's important stuff, folks, because it affects everything from trade to war, to whether or not you can get your hands on a decent croissant. Now, Biden came into office with a lot of foreign policy experience, having served as vice president under Obama and spent decades on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And he promised to restore America's standing in the world after 4 years of Trump's America First approach, which often felt more like America, whatever, I'm busy tweeting. So how has Biden done on the world stage? Well, it's a mixed bag. He's rebuilt relationships with allies that were strained under Trump, rejoined international agreements like the Paris Climate Accord, and taken a tough stance against Russia's invasion of Ukraine. But he's also faced criticism for his handling of the withdrawal from Afghanistan, which, let's just say, didn't exactly go according to plan. And some folks argue that he's been too soft on China, which is like trying to reason with a dragon who's hoarding all the gold. Section 1. The Democratic Deep Bench. It's like a political all-star game without the slam dunks. The race for the 2024 Democratic nomination is wide open, and it's going to be a wild ride. Think of it like this. The Democrats have a deep bench, kind of like the 1992 Dream Team, except instead of Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson, we've got senators, governors, and maybe even a mayor or two. They've all got the skills, the experience, and the ambition to be president. But only one of them can take home the championship ring, or in this case, the keys to the Oval Office. The primary race is going to be a grueling marathon, filled with debates, town halls, and more baby kissing than a daycare center at nap time. But hey, that's what democracy is all about, right? A bunch of people with different ideas duking it out in the public square, trying to win over the hearts and minds of the American people. Section 2. New faces, familiar names. Who's got the right stuff to be commander-in-chief? First up, we've got the veterans, the ones who've been around the block a few times and know how to navigate the treacherous waters of Washington, D.C. There's Bernie Sanders, the senator from Vermont who's been fighting the good fight for social justice and economic equality since before most of you were born. Then we've got Elizabeth Warren, the senator from Massachusetts, who's got a plan for everything, from healthcare to climate change to regulating Wall Street. And let's not forget about Pete Buttigieg, the former mayor of South Bend, Indiana, who's young, charismatic, and speaks like 7 languages, even though some folks still have trouble pronouncing his last name. To the policy wonks, go the spoils healthcare, climate change, and the never-ending budget battle. First up, we've got healthcare, the perennial hot topic that's about as easy to solve as a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. The Democrats all agree that everyone should have access to affordable healthcare, but they've got different ideas about how to get there. Some, like Bernie Sanders, are pushing for Medicare for all, a single-payer system that would essentially make the government the insurer for everyone. Others, like Pete Buttigieg, favor a more incremental approach, like expanding the Affordable Care Act or creating a public option that people could buy into. Then we've got climate change, the existential threat that's looming over us like a giant carbon-emitting cloud. The Democrats are all on board with tackling this issue, but again, they've got different ideas about how to do it. So there you have it, folks. A glimpse into the wild and wacky world of the 2024 Democratic primary. It's going to be a long and winding road, filled with twists, turns, and probably a few political gaffes that will have us all shaking our heads in disbelief. But here's the thing. As much as the Democrats like to argue amongst themselves, and trust me, they do, they know that they need to come together if they want to defeat whoever the Republicans nominate. So, to all the Democratic candidates out there, I say this. Fight hard, fight fair, and for the love of all that is holy, please don't do anything too embarrassing on camera. And to the American people, I say this: pay attention, stay informed, and most importantly, vote. Well, folks, over in the red corner, things are just as lively, if not more so. The Republicans, always up for a good old-fashioned political rodeo, are saddling up their steeds and polishing their belt buckles for their own shot at the 2024 nomination. We've got the usual suspects, of course, the political heavyweights with their eyes on the prize. But we've also got a whole herd of dark horses, newcomers hoping to gallop out of the shadows and steal the show. The GOP showdown is shaping up to be more like a demolition derby, with everyone vying to be the last car standing. So grab your popcorn, folks, because this is one political showdown you won't want to miss. Section 2, Trump Card, or Trumped Up Charges. The Donald looms large and orange. Now, we can't talk about the Republican rodeo without mentioning the elephant, or should I say, the elephant in the room wearing a red Make America Great Again hat. That's right, folks, Donald J. Trump, the former reality TV star turned politician turned golfer-in-chief, is still casting a long shadow over the Republican Party. Will Trump try to reclaim his throne in the Oval Office? Or will he be content to rule from the sidelines, firing off incendiary tweets from his Mar-a-Lago bunker? But one thing's for sure, Trump remains a potent force in American politics, a larger-than-life figure who inspires both fervent loyalty and deep-seated loathing. Section 3, Policy Pivot. What do Republicans stand for when they're not standing against? For years, they've defined themselves largely in opposition to the Democrats, rallying against big government, socialism, and whatever else they could slap a scary label on. But now, with Biden out of the picture and a new generation of voters coming of age, the GOP needs to articulate a positive vision for the future, one that goes beyond simply saying no to everything the Democrats propose. Section 4. Can the GOP get their act together? Or will it be another episode of As the Elephant Turns? So, can the Republicans pull it off? Can they overcome their internal divisions, develop a coherent message, and field a candidate who can appeal to a broad enough swath of the electorate to win the presidency? The Biden effect. A changing of the guard or just a changing of the diapers? Joe Biden, the elder statesman of American politics, has decided to hang up his hat, or maybe just his dentures, and enjoy a well-deserved retirement. Some say it's about time that the Democratic Party needs fresh blood, a new generation of leaders to take on the challenges of the 21st century. But one thing's for sure, Biden's decision marks a turning point in American politics, a symbolic changing of the guard whether you like it or not. Biden's exit from the political stage also shines a light on a larger issue facing America, an identity crisis of sorts. The country is deeply divided, politically and culturally, more so than it's been in decades, maybe even since the Civil War. We're struggling to define who we are as a nation, what we stand for, and where we want to go from here. This identity crisis is playing out in real time on the campaign trail, as candidates from both parties grapple with these fundamental questions. It's a debate about the role of government, the future of the economy, social justice, climate change, and the very soul of America. Beyond the policy debates and the partisan bickering, Biden's decision to step aside also raises a more fundamental question. Can American democracy survive the 21st century? We live in an era of hyper-partisanship, social media echo chambers, and a 24/7 news cycle that thrives on conflict and outrage. In this environment, it's easy to feel cynical about the future of democracy. The challenge now is to find a way to renew our democracy, to restore faith in our institutions, and to bridge the divides that threaten to tear us apart. So there you have it, folks. The 2024 election is shaping up to be a doozy, a political showdown for the ages, with the future of America hanging in the balance. We've got a wide-open race on both sides of the aisle, a cast of characters that wouldn't be out of place in a political thriller, and enough policy debates to make your head spin faster than a politician trying to explain away a scandal. but hey, that's American democracy in action, folks. So buckle up, grab your popcorn, and get ready for a wild ride, because the 2024 election is going to be one for the history books, and you won't want to miss a single minute of it.